Welcome to Teacher Talks. I'm Maria Kefler.
And I'm Erin Brewer, and today we're going to talk about cross-sex hormones. This is testosterone that they're giving to girls to masculinize their bodies, and estrogen that they give to boys to feminize their bodies. Can you go into a little bit more detail about what that means?
Well, I love what I've heard you say about this before, that giving the wrong sex hormones is like putting unleaded gas in a car that requires regular gas or vice versa. Our bodies were designed for the hormones that match our genetic makeup. So I'm a woman, I have XX chromosomes. My body is designed to run on estrogen. A man or a boy has XY chromosomes. His body is made to run on testosterone. But in order to masculinize or feminize, to try to give the appearance of the opposite sex, doctors are prescribing the wrong sex hormones. So girls taking testosterone, after they're on it for a couple of months, their voices start to drop because their vocal cords are thickening. They start to develop facial hair. They start to get the male pattern baldness. Their fat starts to redistribute. So whereas women tend to have it in our chest and sort of in our bottom and hip areas, that will go away, and girls will start to develop that more of sort of a triangle shape that men have. Boys who start taking estrogen, they start developing breasts. Their fat redistributes more like a girl's fat does. And some of these changes may go away if the person stops taking the hormones, but many of them will not, such as the changed voice for women. Once those vocal cords thicken up, you can't thin them down again. The voice stays. So when doctors or therapists say, oh, you can stop taking the hormones and you'll go back to normal, that's not entirely true.
And the other thing that I think is really important is that if puberty blockers are paired with cross-sex hormones, they result in sterility. And so most people would agree that we shouldn't sterilize children. And yet people who embrace these treatments are advocating for the sterilization of children. Children really are not young and are not capable of making such significant decisions, which is why most surgeons won't tie the tubes or provide a vasectomy of someone until they're in their mid-20s, because we recognize that people's minds change and that children's brains aren't fully developed. The other thing that I want to mention, and this is something I think that educators need to know because it's so powerful, is that most any female body, when given testosterone initially, will have a boost. And I'm not sure how to kind of pair that with the car analogy, but it's sort of like if you put the wrong gas in the car initially, it might go rum, 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 and it might run really well for 5 minutes and then die. And that's kind of what happens with testosterone in a woman's body, is that initially she's going to feel great. And they call it gender euphoria. These girls and young women go in and get testosterone. They feel so good. Their libido goes really high. So these are often girls who don't have an experience with sexuality suddenly having a really strong libido, and that makes them feel really good. They feel powerful and strong. So this gender euphoria that comes from testosterone is very real, and it helps to fuel the social contagion aspect of this, in that one girl in a school might see a friend start testosterone, and that friend all of a sudden feels great. Well, that might encourage her to seek it as well. And we know that kids are able to get these interventions really quickly from some of these gender clinics. They just have to go in, and oftentimes on their first appointment will get prescribed cross-sex hormones. And again, these are not temporary. They don't go away. We also hear about the atrophying of the vagina and the uterus that happens when on testosterone. So after a woman's been on testosterone, even if she hasn't been taking puberty blockers, she might undermine her fertility because her reproductive organs atrophy.
And I think as educators, we need to appreciate that even though we are not the ones who are prescribing this, by affirming the gender ideology, the gender identification, we are pushing kids on that path. And so we can, as educators, just say, well, this isn't something I'm doing. I'm just going to go with the flow and be neutral. There's really no neutral ground on this. Kids are being damaged. And by affirming this, by telling a child, yes, you really are the wrong sex, we are culpable with their harm.